Okay, hello again. So we are doing a review today of what we did last week, which was wampum belt in social studies. And then now we're going on to learning a little bit more. We only have two more outcomes left for this unit, which is pretty cool. So we're going to get, we're actually going to finish Iroquois this week. Like, today, tomorrow, and the next day we're gonna finish, which is pretty exciting. Okay, so here we go. The first question is, okay, so this is what we're reviewing, is how did the wampum belt address collective identity? So first of all, collective identity is where the nations are all gathered together and they have shared values and beliefs. And they don't feel like they need to change one another because of those, because there's maybe they have different language, but they don't feel like they need to change that. They still are united together. So let's see, I just picked out a couple of pieces that had some nice visual elements and also that did a good job of explaining the difference. Okay, so all right, so the primary source of ancient Athens, like Rajavi has up here, was the clay pots, and she's right. They showed about different stories, and they also told events, that's right, and they could have also depicted social status a little bit. So we would have gotten an idea of the way of life of the ancient Athens people, or the ancient Athenians, by how they lived. So for example, we saw scenes depicted of the slaves. We saw maybe like the roles of different women. And then we saw like different methods of voting as well. So it really was a very strong, in-depth picture of what actually happened. Now, the difference is that the Iroquois, there was no writing on this. It was purely passed down through oral tradition. With the saying of what the wampum belt means, and also more by symbols. So because there's these pictures don't necessarily mean anything to anybody unless they understand the story behind it. Whereas if we look at over here in ancient Athens, we could kind of create a picture based upon, or create a story based upon the pictures that are already shown to us. So let's see here. Okay, yeah, that's right. So there's the purple and the white beads, which are meant to represent peace, because Hiawatha really believed that was kind of he's the one that mainly created the wampum belt. So let's see what Daisy wrote. Wampum belts are similar to primary sources of artifacts in ancient Athens. Yep, they tell stories and they track important events. That's right, they both do that. The only difference is that the wampum was used as a form of identity. That's right, unlike artifacts which just tell stories. That's right, very good. So the wampum was used as a sense of identity, and it helped link and show overall how the different nations are connected, whereas usually ancient Athens just kind of saw like one finite part compared to like the whole picture of the whole society, and really showing the collective identity. Let's see what Malik put here. Wampum belt of the Iroquois related to the vases of ancient Athens, so that they showed their beliefs. That's right, the way of life and the roles, so that they showed that there are some part of society, right? So it's an overall picture of society. Really well done, you guys. Very, very, very good. So if you had any slight edits that you felt like you should make to the work that you wrote, then those would be a couple of things that you could gather. Okay, so now we are going on to today's lesson, which is, okay, it's a little bit more about the Hiawatha wampum belt. So you don't have to write any of this down, unless, I guess there's a couple points that I'll say you could maybe highlight these ones, but you do not need to write all of this, okay? So the four squares represent the four nations who adopted the Great Law of Peace. From left, okay, so east, so from, or east to west, okay, so from east to west, from left to right. The five images represent the Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, Cayuna, and the Seneca nations and their territories. Of course, with the Onondaga in the center, that's where the Tree of Peace is buried. The white tree represents a tree of peace. Yep, it also is a symbol of the Onondaga Nation because they host the Grand Council and they're the keepers of the fire. The squares are connected by a white line, which shows how the nations are interconnected and how they're allies or how that they're friends. Okay, so that's very important, the fact that they are connected. Another white line, the path of peace, extends beyond the borders of the wampum belt. So that's over here. It goes beyond just them, which shows that other nations are welcome to join their path, which is such a really amazing thing that they did. That shows just how much they valued peace, not only for them, but for everyone. They wanted everyone to join them. Or they were welcome to, at least, as long as they believed in the same things, as long as they were okay with honoring peace and then bearing also their weapons. So the white symbolizes no evil or jealousy, or jealous thought shall creep through into the minds of the chiefs while the council is under the great peace. White, the emblem of peace, love, charity, and equity, surrounding and guarding the 5 nations. Yeah, so there you go. I guess it's here's the path around, and then the nation would be in the center, so it's guarding them in the center. The peace is protecting them all joined together, which is really cool. So you don't have to write, this is the only thing that you could write down, but the answer I've literally put right here, so I don't need to see a picture of this. So you guys can just do it. So notice how the ends of the belt are not definite, right? They're infinite. What does this represent? I spelled that wrong. How does it shows up. Oh no, there we go. Okay. What does this tell us about the Iroquois people? So yeah, you can just sort of, even if you just answer this one question using this information up here, that would be the best. And it's just a summary of what we've already talked about. So represents how they're welcoming and they really support peace, right? They want other nations to join. And then what does it tell us about the Iroquois people? Yeah, that it tells us that they really believe in they believe in collection of different nations, and that they believe that peace is possible as long as everyone sort of follows what they have agreed upon in the Great Law of Peace. Okay, so that is that. Now we are flipping to a new page, and we have done this. We've done this. We've done this. We've done this. We've done this. Today we're doing this. And then, so tomorrow we're going to do the very last one. Okay, so today is, how does the social structure of the Iroquois Confederacy impact its political structure? So how does the social structure impact the political structure? And that's a very interesting question to think about, even for other nations around the world, not even just the Iroquois, because usually the social structure has very, very, very strong implications upon the policies and the decisions that are made at a government level. And then we're gonna do this one tomorrow. Okay. So basically, this is what I'd like you to write. So notice that we have these 2 things left. So I suggest you go to a brand new double spread fold, and on this side, one side you write down this, and then leave the other side blank, because tomorrow we're going to do one more thing. But it's not going to take up very much space, either of these items. Okay, so the first thing, so this is what can be the I can statement in the top of one page. Okay, double spread fold. And basically, I'm just answering this for you. So I suggest that you write this stuff down, or you don't actually even have to write this down if you create a visual that represents this. Okay, so you don't need to do, if you write this down, you still have to do the visual, but you could get away with not writing this down, which would be better, and then just create the visual, including this information. Okay, so basically here we go. So the Iroquois social system, so that's how people interact, nothing to do with the government, just on a daily basis, how families interact. So the social system, the men and women were considered equals, right? Both the men and the women helped the community in their own ways. They both had different jobs, but they were definitely seen as equal importance. So it was not like ancient Athens where it was a hierarchy or a structure. Certain people at the top, right? The citizens at the top, and then the slaves and the women were at the bottom, right? The medics were in the middle. So that's very different from the Iroquois. They believed in much, 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 much more balance. So that's the social system, right? How things on a normal, on a daily basis. Then the political system was similar. It reflected this. And the same thing with ancient Athens, right? Their social system was represented in their political system because were women allowed to vote? No, right? They weren't allowed to vote. Slaves weren't allowed to vote, which really was a direct reflection of their social system. So political system was similar with this equality. The relationships between the chiefs and the clan mothers was complex and ensured that no gender empowered over the other or overpowered the other. So yeah, there's checks and balances in place. The only way to become a chief was to be chosen by the clan mother. So the clan mother had to think that this guy was going to do a good job. And then also she could kick him out, right? And then the only way a clan mother could have a voice in the council was through the chief, which is pretty cool. So it showed a lot of harmony and a lot of balance. Yeah, so that's it for today. It's pretty short. So the only thing that I would like you to do is this: create a visual to represent this equal balance in the social system and the political system of the Iroquois. So how could you create a picture that shows this? How could you create a picture that shows equality and fairness amongst the men and women and amongst the chiefs and the clan mothers? So how could you show that in a visual way? So I want you to try to think of a way that you show this with pictures without saying very many words. Okay, so that is it for today. We are going to do another social studies lesson tomorrow. So let's just say that this and then the next one don't have to be due right away. Let's have them both due on Tuesday instead. But I would suggest that you kind of start thinking about this one. How could you create a picture that shows this? Okay, so that is it for today. Very well done.